Good afternoon. I'm Tom Jackson with Jackson Systems. Welcome to our training this afternoon. We're so glad that you decided to join us. Today we're going to be rediscovering IAQ, which is the Resideo AirCycle program. I'll be introducing our presenter here momentarily, but that's going to be Dr. Jeff Stamp, and we'll look forward to his awesome presentation. Before we get started, we do have a few little housekeeping things we want to review. If you've been to our trainings in the past, it is the same format that you're used to. I'm going to twist my seat a little bit. On your screen, you should see several boxes that we want to make sure you're comfortable with. First, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice the Q&A box. That'll be the opportunity for you to type in a message, and I will be working with our team here to answer those, as well as Dr. Stamp will have several times throughout the course of the presentation where he'll be able to answer questions that come in as well. So feel free. We'd love to have those questions come in. Below that, at the end, we'd love for you to fill out our short little survey. It does help us continue to have improve our training program. We'd also love to hear topics you want to hear more about. So at the end of it, please take just a minute to fill that out for us. In the bottom left, we've got some marketing material from Jackson Systems if you want to check that out. There are no handouts from today's presentation, so you don't need to worry about that. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the slides that'll be happening that Dr. Jeff will be presenting to us. And then, while this is not a NATE certified class, you can get your continuing ed credits. So if you make sure that you watch for at least 40 minutes, we'll be sending you a certificate afterwards, so you have something to show that you've completed this training with Resideo. A couple other quick notes. Down at the bottom is the dock. You can click on any of these little buttons. That'll make sure that whichever area you want to bring up, if it got minimized or whatever, you can click on one of those buttons. It'll pop that box right back up, whether it's the Q&A or the survey or whatever you want to see the slides. Just click on those buttons along the bottom, and that'll make sure that you bring that back up on your screen. And then a couple of viewing tips. We highly recommend you don't try to stream Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus at the same time. Those are big internet hogs, and if you turn those off, it'll ensure a better presentation, smoother presentation. And then, try not to use your cell phone or an iPad or any sort of tablet. If you can watch it on a PC or a laptop, that's always the best way to do that to ensure a quality presentation. And as far as browsers go, don't use Firefox, Netscape, or Internet Explorer. Please just stick with probably Google Chrome is the best solution. And of course, as always, we will be recording this. If you want to watch it on demand later on or show other team members or your management team, you'll be able to just use that same link again that you used to log on this afternoon and watch that again. It takes us about 48 hours to do all the post-production work, so just be on the lookout for that, and we should be good to go. So, as far as rediscovering IAQ, we hear a lot about IAQ right now, especially in the midst of the COVID-19. Everyone has a greater sense about their indoor air quality. But the really tough part about IAQ as a contractor, how do you present that to your homeowner, your business owner, without it sounding or looking like a bunch of snake oil? What are the tools that you can use as a contractor to present to them that gives them real data that they can see out of their own house or their own building, and then with that data present to them real solutions that will help improve their indoor air quality. Jackson Systems, we've been a partner with Honeywell, now Resideo, for decades and decades. And, we've always offered those products, the air cleaners and UV lights, but we've never had a system until now working with Resideo on how to present that to contractors so they can take that knowledge base and present it to homeowners and business owners so that you're ensuring you're delivering great products that are actually improving their indoor air quality. And plus, what they're getting ready to show us here today with Dr. Jeff, it's really simple. They've made this so easy for you as the contractor, HVAC contractor, to go in and present just a great, quick solution that we know will make a positive impact in the indoor air quality. At this time, I'm going to introduce Dr. Jeff Stamp, and we're really excited. You're going to love his presentation. He's high energy, just so much information. You're going to really enjoy today's presentation. Also online with us, we do have both Gary Crosby and Mark Brook from Resideo. That's going to help us answer some questions. If you've got specific questions about an actual product, you know, maybe an air cleaner or UV light, hopefully we'll be able to get those answered with the additional backup support we've got from Mark and Gary. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jeff and lead us through this awesome presentation. Thanks, Dr. Jeff.
Well, thanks, Tom, and thanks, Jackson Systems, for having me today. You know, it is really a shame I can't be in Indiana. I have a lot of Indiana background, so I'm missing the fact that I'm not in Indianapolis live today. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a little background, Tom. My HVAC experience comes from the industrial side of HVAC, and I spent a lot of time up in Frankfort, Indiana with Frito-Lay when we were installing the first Baked Lay's crisp line. If you've ever eaten the Baked Lay's, you know it's a baked product, and when you work on HVAC and the industrial side, everything that's in the air in the factory ends up in the food product. Here's one of my favorite stories to always share with an audience. The next time you buy a loaf of bread, take that loaf of bread, open up the bag, put your nose in it, close your eyes, breathe in, and think forklift. Now, it might not happen the first time you try this, but after 2 or 3 loaves of bread, you're gonna faintly get that odor of the propane from a forklift because some genius thought that the shortest distance between the loading dock and the warehouse was through the processing area. And when you've got a big baking oven, it's not like your grandma's oven where you put 1 loaf of bread in there. We make bread at 3,000 pounds an hour, and literally all the makeup air that goes through that burner to become 450 degrees to bake that bread. One of the things people don't realize is that bread is actually a MER 5 filter. So it will pick up any odor. Now, hey, Tex, don't put bread in a filter box. That's not really a good example if you don't have one on your truck. Get plenty of Honeywell filters on your truck. But the key thing is that whatever's in the air ends up in the food product. So from an IAQ standpoint, we're incredibly tuned into what is the quality of the experience that a customer has later in their experience. And so when Resideo said, hey, let's take a re-examination of what indoor air quality is all about on the residential side, I was really excited about the opportunity because to me, as I've looked at indoor air quality, and of course for everyone out there, this is not a new topic. It's been around for 15 years. And like Tom said, with all the COVID challenges, it's now become a new question that keeps coming up. But traditionally, we always look at indoor air quality as a twice-a-year promotion, right? We've got 2 major pieces of equipment, the air conditioner and the furnace. And so when it's springtime, like right about now, we get to Memorial Day and that magical switch gets flipped in Indiana and all of a sudden the humidity comes in. I'm sure it came in last weekend right on cue, or wherever you are. When the AC season comes in, that's the time to talk about indoor air quality. Or conversely, in the fall, when we go to put in the furnaces and get those tuned up and ready for winter season, we tend to look at indoor air quality as a promotion. And so my goal in the program, creating the AirCycle program, was to ask the question, how can we make indoor air quality every day as an activity? And number 2, how can we help contractors actually find more opportunity in order to build a better and more solid business in indoor air quality, as opposed to looking in the rearview mirror and say, what did we do last year? What are we going to do this year? How do we get some really good information? So I'm going to share with you today the program that we've been running for about 2 years, the AirCycle program. One of the things I'd like to give you as a housekeeping piece of information is I've put my email address there. It's answers@aircyclereports.com. Generally, after I get done with the presentation, you'll be driving home and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I've got a question. Feel free at any time to reach out. I love to answer questions. And because as a scientist, indoor air quality is a fascinating puzzle to me. Also, I will give a shout out to Tyler on the tech side here at Jackson Systems. I did send to you, Tyler, an email with a PDF of the report that I'm going to be showing, and we can make that available to everybody today as a handout, as a way to get a good sense of what we're going to be talking about here today. So the program, and I want to make sure that, and Tom, thank you so much for saying my favorite magical word, system. I want to take indoor air quality and make it more than just about a monitor. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we use a monitor as a piece of diagnostic tool, but its job is literally to collect data. But in that regard, the data has a very important part in our indoor air quality program because it provides the basis for the conversation that you have with the consumer about their opportunity in the home. And so I'm going to talk about the monitor. To me, it's like a big fish finder. If you love to fish, you don't go fishing without your fish finder, because that fish finder has three basic functions, right? Are there any fish? How big are the fish? And where are the fish? And that's all really a fish finder can do. I've not seen a fish finder actually catch any fish. They simply identify where the opportunity is. So we're going to talk today about how do you build a better indoor air quality line of business? How do you increase revenue growth? And how do you look at the activity that your techs are doing in the home? And we've built this program with not only comfort consultants in mind who are out there sizing new equipment, ACs and furnaces, but we're also concerned about how the repair tech and the install tech, how they can use the data from a monitor to have a conversation about indoor air quality. And then finally, the annual service maintenance agreement techs. As I've gone around the country, I've ridden with hundreds of technicians, and it seems like that annual service maintenance agreement runs between $180 and $250 a year. And customers are asking that great question. What do I get for my $15 a month on this membership plan? And a part of that is developing a great value story using data analytics. And so our program is more than simply about buying a monitor. It's about how do you get the right training so that everybody understands when do you have the conversation about indoor air quality. Very important, understanding the timing of the question. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then also, what is in the data? And we've tried to create intelligence and a little bit of AI within the report so that it actually helps a technician build an invoice very quickly. Contractor owners have told me, hey, Stamp, look, dude, three things. Number one, my guys are out in the field 5-6 calls a day, every day, and they're out there all the time. Don't waste their time. Two, don't take up more time while they're actually doing their work, because we've got a lot of things they've got to focus on and get the installs right, the sizing right, and all of that. Don't distract. And third, how do I make sure that at the end of this process, whatever is an opportunity, how does it integrate into the process of building a better invoice that gets the customer to lean in and say yes more often? And so with that in mind, we jumped in and started this program with one very important question. And that is, if IAQ is a real issue and 95% of all homes have a measurable indoor air quality problem that can be fixed, then why don't customers actually spend more money on indoor air quality? Why do they resist that process? And so we went out and talked to a lot of homeowners and asked them that same question. And we asked them this very interesting beginning question. When an HVAC tech knocks on your door, what do you think they're there to do? Now, when we collected the homeowners' responses, I also bracketed that same question with a bunch of HVAC technicians. And they told me, well, they're thinking we're probably here to sell them something because, at the end of the day, there's something on promotion. We're always trying to do something to build the business. But that's not what the homeowner initially thinks. What the homeowner actually initially thinks is, I hope that you're here to fix the problem that I actually called you for. So like if it's springtime and the AC and the capacitor goes out and I don't know how to get my air conditioner up and running, the first thing I want you to focus on is get my air conditioner running. Yet 95% of all indoor air quality opportunities are lost in the first 2 minutes a tech is in the home, because as you see on the picture on the slide, what typically is the argument that goes on at the very beginning is tech walks in and goes, hi, I'm Jeff from ABC HVAC, and it's springtime and we're running a special springtime promotion. Would you like to have a free indoor air quality report? And that stops the conversation right away, because now the homeowner actually is thinking they're being sold. And so we wanted to take the conversation away from a promotion around a seasonal change, or what I've watched technicians also do amazingly is they'll walk in and go, well, it's springtime. That means it's pollen season. Do any of you or your kids have allergies? I can fix that. oh my goodness gracious, that becomes a very interesting conversation. Or anybody here have asthma? Or they'll rub their fingers on a countertop and go, look at all the dust I found, which means we just told the homeowner what? You're a horrible housekeeper. So the key question that we have to boil down to is health our best position? And even with the COVID conversations, these are present conversations that we're having all the time about the health condition of a home, but we're not health professionals. I've ridden with a lot of techs, and I've yet to find a healthcare professional masquerading as an HVAC technician. That's just not our space. But what is our space is the concept of how are we going to control what's in the air around them. So we built the AirCycle program with one very important value in mind, and that is help the technicians stop guessing and help them actually get enough data to turn the conversation into something that's meaningful, that a homeowner can now start to make an informed decision around the system characteristics of their home and how that indoor air quality affects the comfort of what they're doing. And yes, controlling particles in a home to reduce the pollen in the home helps for allergies or helps with asthma. And yes, UV lights and HEPA filters and making sure that you have the right MERV 13 or plus better filtration to help stop viruses, those are present conversations. But it all starts with not guessing about the condition of a home, but actually having enough data and analytics to be able to accomplish that. And so the way we looked at it from a systems point of view is to set the very simple analogy of the air cycle. And really, the air cycle is simply the concept of air goes in and out of your house, and your house acts like a big, huge, giant filter, probably more accurately like a big, giant plastic bag with all the vapor technology that we've got in there about how we're sealing up homes. And as homes become tighter with advanced insulated windows and doors, homes are actually becoming more of a ventilation challenge. And so that changes the UV completely, or the IAQ completely. You know, it brought to mind for me for a second, the old cliche that we've heard in indoor air quality for so many years. I'm sure you've heard this one, right? The old statement of the indoor air quality in your home can be as much as 5 times more polluted as the outdoor air quality. Now, we ran just almost 20,000 AirCycle reports last year all over the country. And guess what? That statement doesn't actually pass truth fact finding. There are cases where your indoor air quality can be 5 times greater than the outdoor air, polluted than the outdoor air, defining what polluted means. If we simply look at particles in the air, dust, dander, pollen, smoke, and mold, the favorite 5 things that end up floating in your air, it turns out at certain times of the year, it's actually more of it outside your home than inside your home. But what's happening? Your house starts to collect these things. So your house is always a moving, alive system. It isn't static. And so our job is to try to figure out where the house is, because we've got 3 basic technologies that we can utilize to figure out how to control these elements in our home. And either we have to dilute it with fresh air using an HRV or an ERV, bringing in ventilation options, or we have to do a better job of filtering it and actually running the fan so that we have those kinds of conditions where the particles can get next to the filter media. I've been surprised by the number of homes that I've been in that have wonderful filtration technology, but they're not running their fans enough because of energy savings, and then they wonder why they're not removing particles from their air. I've yet to see a air filter actually get out of a filter cabinet and walk around the house collecting dust. And so part of our education with consumers about how to utilize this advanced technology is to have enough data so that they can see what's going on in their home and be a part of that decision. And so we don't want to just monitor indoor air quality, simply doing a promotional scan and saying, here's what we got going on. If you're interested, a big part about it is actually empowering our technicians, both the comfort consultants and the install techs and the annual service and maintenance agreement techs, with enough information that allows for them to put together a cohesive picture of what is going on today, what is possibly changing, whether the air conditioner is down and the house is overly heated, or whether or not the house is just fine. Part of it is developing that continuity. One of the things we've been very aggressive about in some of our next advancements is being able to integrate these reports with ServiceTitan so that you can actually put this data along with a customer invoice and in their folder, so that as you go into a home 2 or 3 times a year, you start to see homeowners beginning to be interested in the story of the IAQ in their home. Now, we all know that a customer may not buy today, but the goal is, with enough history, they begin to lean into the value proposition of know, like, and trust with you, and realize as they measure things in their home that consistently are out of control, they begin to want to take action because they realize that they have options available to them. So the key part of what we do in our training, and that really is the center point around what we're trying to do with the program, is to not only provide a tech with what is in the report, but how to run the monitor, how to set up the conditions so that they're getting the right data out of the home, and then how do they turn that report into a really good invoice. And now I see one of the questions that comes up all the time is, can we add our prices to the IAQ report? Now, we actually add pricing on the back end so that you can look at it in review. I'll show you how we do that in a little bit. But yes, when you can actually put these into ServiceTitan, you can now have your book of prices and have it now pull that information in so that technicians don't have to wonder what is the right approach to good, better, best, or small, medium, and large. If you're, for example, in a dehumidifier strategy of, do I use a DR65 or a DR120? What are the differences in not only pricing, but the time and the labor and building that good invoice? So right now, the way the program works is it gives you an average value of every report, but as we roll out and increase the depth of the program, you'll be able to have your own prices. But a big part of that is, as long as you've got a enterprise software where you've got your price book with you, we'll show you, as I show you the reports here, how easy it is to knit those two pieces of information together. That's a great question, one that I get a lot. So what do we measure in the indoor air quality spectrum? Well, the AirCycle program has 6 points of control that we focus on. Temperature and relative humidity, right? The two granddaddies of all of HVAC. Obviously, when a home is not functioning correctly, it's good to have a separate information around temperature and relative humidity. A lot of homes have humidity sensors and obviously the thermostat, but we also include carbon monoxide as a safety detector. Now, I'm fascinated, and I'm sure a number of you recognize that, especially in the Midwest, that carbon monoxide, Midwest and the East Coast, that carbon monoxide generally is a wintertime concern because of a cracked heat exchanger in a furnace. And yes, we see a lot of data where this becomes an issue in the fall when furnaces go on. But this spring, I happen to notice an outbreak, if you will, or an increase in the data of a number of carbon monoxide level readings that were above the control limit and were of concern. And as we started to lean into it, with everyone staying at home, it was really quite interesting. People were at home more, and a lot of people have attached garages. They'd make quick runs to the grocery store or whatever. They'd turn their car on in the garage, let it idle, open up the door between the mudroom, the garage, and their kitchen, and they were bringing in combustion products from their automobiles and elevating their carbon monoxide levels. We also had conditions where people are at home, they're making modifications to their home, and a number of times where renovation companies, remodelers, were putting in gas fireplace inserts and weren't getting them vented correctly. So it's really important that you are always collecting data about what's going on at home every day, every call. And that was the big basis behind what we wanted to do with the monitor. We wanted to make this monitor easy enough to plug in, be able to have its own diagnostics. It has no on or off switch. It thinks for itself. It takes 30 minutes of time to sample the air and give you a reading of these 6 factors. And as long as you've got 30 minutes, we recommend to a technician, always run the monitor, because the monitor is building a story around what's in the air. So along with temperature, relative humidity, and carbon monoxide are the 3 primary indoor air quality control factors. Particle size. Now this monitor, that we create, that we have, we use the Air Advice monitor that we've co-branded with the folks at Air Advice. And we have now created our own proprietary report that now is different than the standard Air Advice report, because we wanted to lean into how do you use this data from a systems control point of view, moving away from the health conversation and giving a better opportunity to develop an invoice. But the particle size sensor is a 10 micron particle sensor, so it's the large particles. I get this question a lot. Can the Air Advice monitor or the AirCycle Pro monitor, can it measure COVID viruses? The answer is no. There are no monitors that can actually measure virus particles because they are super, super small. Let me give you a comparison. If you look at the 10 micron size particle, that would be equivalent to an inflatable exercise ball, you know, the big blue inflatable exercise balls that you maybe have sat on or worked out at the gym. If that is the size of a pollen particle or a dust particle, well, then a COVID virus particle is the size of a small green pea, 100 times different. So they're about 0.1 to 0.125 microns in size. So we can't measure them directly, but particle size in the air is like a canary in the mine shaft. If you've got particles floating in the air, you probably got a great distribution. The other challenge with particle collection and particle data, I get this question all the time. Can I tell the difference between pine pollen and willow pollen and oak pollen? No, there aren't detectors that can do that just yet. Can I tell the difference between certain kinds of dust and certain kinds of ash or pollution or smoke? Not yet, but that kind of technology is coming. That monitor would be $15,000, $20,000 to create. It would be large. You'd have to have a battery pack, and it would be unwieldy. So for right now, what we measure is a general particle count that gives us an indication of what is going on, in a home. Then we also have what we call the chemical odors and smells, which is the old VOCs conversation. It's interesting. We changed it from volatile organic compounds, which consumers didn't really find to be very friendly, and changed it to chemical odors and smells, both good odors and smells and the not so good odors and smells as a way of doing that measurement. And then we also measure carbon dioxide. Now it's interesting, and think in your mind as you look at these 6 factors, which of these in your own mind do you think would be the one you'd see most often in your area? Now, if I know your zip code, I can tell you exactly what's going on in your area, but most technicians in the business will tell me, hey, Stamp, that's easy. There are 2 things that we see a lot of high particles and a lot of high humidity. And a big part of why you recognize those is because they're very visual and they're also very tactile. When humidity goes up, you can feel that on your skin. But it turns out that what you'll find, if you look at all across the nation, and especially in the Midwest, 60% of the time, what you actually will see is high carbon dioxide readings. High carbon dioxide and ventilation challenges are the #1 issue that we see. High particles and high relative humidity, about 35% of the time. But what's interesting to me is if you look at all 6 of these factors, and we prorate that on every report that we run, 95% of the time, you'll see at least one of those 6 factors are out of control in a home. And up to 50% of the time, you'll see not 1, not 2, but 3 of those factors that are out of control. Let me give you an example of what that looks like. Here's the report that comes out of the monitor after 30 minutes. The monitor is super, super easy. We train the technicians. When you go into a home, you walk in, you repeat the information on your ticket. You then plug in your monitor and get to work. You don't even bring up to the homeowner what we're trying to do with indoor air quality. There is no promotion. It's just simply, I'm getting ready to go to work. I've got a very valuable tool. I'm going to plug in, get ready to go, and off you go. After 30 minutes, when your work is done, you're getting ready to talk to the homeowner about their options. Then this report, which has its own cellular modem inside of it, the monitor has a Verizon cell modem in it, sends that information to the cloud, gets processed through our servers, and in a half a second, the report ends up in your email. A lot of technicians will put them on their tablets or on their smartphones, and then you can share that with the homeowner right there at that moment. And so one of the things that we love to do is we love to use this as a conversation point. You know, today while I was in your home and I replaced the capacitor, I always check the air in the air cycle in your home that's going through your AC system. And I would like to share this report with you. And when we use the share vocabulary and the share narrative, many homeowners want to have a curiosity around what is actually in their air, and that report becomes part of a conversation. And so the report, and as I walk through the report here, I'll give you a little diagnostic on it. It's got some very good pieces of information. Obviously, every report has a timestamp so that it relies and connects through, for example, like on Service Titan with your invoice. So as you go in and you put on your app that, hey, I'm in a home, I've started my ticket, they align by the timestamp. Then we created a table where all the data is literally put in order of good, green, marginal, yellow, or needs attention, red. So green, yellow, red, very familiar color coding. And we organize them. There's an algorithm that organizes them by matter of importance and degree of out of control. So they start with what's most in control and move all the way to what is most out of control. So you can see in this report, at the bottom of that table is particles, which needs attention. And since it's at the bottom, it's the #1 factor that needs some evidence of what we can do to solve this problem. So in this report, again, this was a springtime report. I pulled this one. It's one from the Midwest. There are 3 issues on this report, 1 marginal and 2 that need attention. Becomes very much a part of a systems conversation around what can be done in that home. The table is built for the technicians. The dials that you see there are built for the homeowner. Most people recognize control from the analogy of the speedometer, so that's why we built the gauges. You know, if you're out on the highway and the speed limit's 70 miles an hour out there on Interstate 74 when Tom's driving home, you know, if he's below 70 or 70, he's in control. Between 70 or what is it, about 70 to 75, maybe you're marginal and the highway patrolman won't give you too much static. But boy, when you get up around 80, he thinks you need some attention too. So people get a sense of control naturally, and that's why it becomes a very easy conversation to have with the homeowner. You'll see there on the left-hand side of that dial in the blue area, that's where that factor is in control. In the yellow is where it's marginal, and then as it moves higher, it goes to needs attention. We built these dials and we scaled them so that technicians can talk about, is it 1 times out of control, 2 times out of control, 3 times out of control, and we work through all of that in our training. The key part about the report is that the report is designed to help give diagnostics as an overall picture of the condition of the indoor air quality in the home. Here's an example of a report where everything is all good. Interestingly, all good reports only show up 5% of the time. That's 5 reports out of 100 where you don't see an issue. Now, if that's one of the homes that you work in and you've already installed IAQ equipment, that's a good thing. And your job is to keep it that way. Or if it's in that beautiful spring day where everybody's got their windows open and everything is just working just perfectly, that's a great thing to see a house that's all in control. But we also notice that there are a lot of things that get right towards the edge. And if you notice on that one, it shows that particles are real close to the edge of its control point at 9.6, or 9.2. So the thing is, if this is done in February or March, imagine when the spring season comes in, this house will drift out of control. So every report starts to tell a story about what's going on in that home. Now, here's an interesting example. I pulled this report just recently. This is a springtime report where the AC is off. Again, the very common situation, the capacitor goes down, the AC goes down, and in a place where it's hot and humid, man, a house can get heated up pretty quick, can get pretty stinky from outgassing from carpets and everything else that's in the house. And when they're shut up like this, you see a lot of things light up. This is like a Christmas tree, and you'll see 5 out of 6 of the factors that need attention. And I get this question a lot. People say to me, gosh, you know, is that really fair if the AC is off and the house is really kind of suffering? Is it okay to show a report like this? Well, it's good to be able to show what is the reality, what is actually going on. Like I said earlier, I don't want techs to guess. Yes, if the humidity is above 60%, we know that mold will grow in a home. But we can't just guess and say, well, it's humid outside, what's it inside? Because everyone's going to see that information as simply you're hazarding a speculation. And so I'm a big fan of whatever you find the house in, whatever condition, every day you're in a home, take and run a measurement. To me, it's very much like a detective. You're going in a home, you're understanding how each unique home is set up, how the equipment is set up, how the ventilation is set up, and you'll get a good sense of what goes on. Now, after the 2 pages, and Tyler's got the report that I showed earlier, and as you get the report, you'll be able to take a look at that particular report. But as you look at what's in the table in terms of the order, behind the report are pages of the Honeywell Home products that will actually address them in order of importance. So in that previous one where the humidification was really hot, where the level of relative humidity was really high and particles were really high, well, when particles and relative humidity are high in a home above 60% and more than 10 parts per million or 10 parts per million, what you're going to find is you're going to have a probability of high mold growth happening in that home. So you have 2 strategies. How do we take the humidity out of the air with dehumidification? And so you'll see product recommendations. In the case of dehumidification, it's small, medium, and large. As well as the next factor with filtration, it's good, better, best. You can have as simple as a 4-inch media box, more improved MERV filters, or with the Honeywell line, the F300, which is an electronic air cleaner. So it gives options that allow for the tech with their insight and knowledge of the home. How do I build a package of indoor air quality solutions for this system to help improve these factors that are out of control in your home and get them back in control so that you can enjoy the environment that you're looking for? But as that relates to things like health, questions come up all the time. What if, in fact, I'm concerned about UV and whether UV lights will help lower virus particles in my home? Well, when you see issues of high volatile organic compounds, the high odors and smells, or high particles in a home, then you'll get a recommendation for how to use UV lights. And Resideo has a tremendous line of UV light products that can be used in a home. So a big part of providing the data of what is there also requires another conversation for how do I take care of it and what do I do with it in the home. So we have the products that are only related to the issues that are out of control. An interesting little tidbit, after last year running about 20,000 reports like I mentioned, I always ask technicians, what percentage of homes do you think need a new thermostat? And I typically will get an answer of 10, 15, 20% of the time because there's a lot of old thermostats out there. Well, it turns out the number is actually much higher. 65% of homes need a new thermostat. And it's not just simply because they're old, it's because they're one-dimensional. They aren't technologically broad enough to be able to handle the attachment of indoor air quality to be able to control, for example, a steam humidifier in the wintertime, or be able to have a ventilation run if you have an HRV, and be able to have multiple things operating in order to control the indoor air quality in a home. So the AirCycle monitor is a great fish finder in the fact that it will identify what's going on and then has enough intelligence in the reports to give you guided advice as to what to offer as a solution to the homeowner. And the key part about the process is, I get this question all the time. This monitor to acquire is a pricey piece of equipment. It's $2,000 to buy a piece of equipment and start using it in a home. And people say to me, well, what's my return on this? Well, I'll show you in just a little bit. We actually monetize every report in terms of what its opportunity value is based on what's out of control. And if you run one report a day, you've got 5-6 reports a day, 5-6 homes an opportunity to run a report. But if you only run one report a day, 4 days a week, this monitor will reveal enough opportunity to pay itself back inside of 3 to 4 weeks. So this is a year-long program where indoor air quality doesn't have to live as a promotion. It can live as an everyday part of every call, because the air in the home, if it's out of control, will affect the environment of how a family lives in that home. Now, it turns out you can, in fact, use this program as you collect data If you've got 10 technicians and 10 monitors, you've now start to collect a lot of information about what's going out there in the homes in your geography and in your business. And as we start to collect data over time, we can do some really fun things with understanding what is the opportunity for IAQ growth. And it turns out the main KPI or the main metric to measure is the number of reports that your technicians actually generate. Because you can't find opportunity to talk to a customer about what's going on with their air if you haven't actually run the report. So instead of focusing on how many dollars did we sell today, the question is, how many reports did we run today? Because like I said, if you're not selling today, you're collecting data, you're generating a history, and over time, we have seen that homeowners that see an out of control factor 2 or 3 times will start to lean in and go, let's get this under control. I'm ready to start investing in my HVAC equipment from an IAQ perspective. So what we send to you every week as a manager or as a contractor owner is we send you a weekly report that says, how many reports did we run? How many of our monitors were active out there? How many dollars of actual opportunity did we see? And here's what that report looks like. Now, we also have an online dashboard that service tech managers can log into, and they can see every report that comes in. We can look at how many opportunities for devices did we see last week? How many opportunities for new thermostats? Or how many opportunities to sell a UV light to control odor? Or how many times did we see particles were out of control in all the calls that we made? Most of the time, we manage IAQ as a rear view mirror of what did we do last year and what's the weather look like this year. But with real data, we can help you actually forecast better to work with your distributor and say, these are the products that I'm likely going to see and need. I need to make sure that I'm ready to respond to my customer's need to want to improve their HVAC system. So we can look at product demand. We can also look at report production against a goal that you set for your technicians, as well as we can monetize and say, how many dollars of opportunity from a retail point of view did we walk across last week? Not necessarily what we sold, but what was available to us. What I like about it as a business owner is if I have 4 techs out working every day and we're walking over opportunity we don't even know is there, then how do I make a concerted effort to build a piece of business without good enough analytics and data to help me guide and train my team to leverage and lean in and close on those opportunities? So that's basically the program in a nutshell. I'm a big believer that data beats guessing every day, and that if you combine the data with a few other diagnostic tools, good reporting, good analytics, a little bit of intelligence of what does the data mean, and make it incredibly quick and easy. We train technicians to be able to digest that report in inside of 20 seconds, be able then to convert that to an opportunity to create a better invoice, and then also the communication it takes to share that report and get consumers to understand they are the ones in control of their purchase decision. Again, giving a customer an opportunity that they can make an informed purchase makes that conversation not one of promote and try to coerce you into buying something, but actually getting you to select something because you actually invested in the result. And so we see a tremendous uptick right away with companies that use the AirCycle program because they have real data. And they do lean into the fact this particular customer sold 50K in the first month. They had 5 monitors that they started with. They now have 15 monitors in their organization, and they have created a complete IAQ department. So even when they go in and install IAQ equipment, they now come back and have follow-up with their annual service maintenance techs to make sure things are running the way they're supposed to, help consumers reprogram their thermostats and do other kinds of things. As well as we find that people from all over the organization want to get involved in understanding how to use IAQ. So the basic downbeats of the program are this. Per monitor is $19.95. And what you get with the monitor is you get the monitor itself. There is no charge for the reports that you run. You can run all the reports you want for the price that you've purchased it. It has a 1-year cellular subscription that goes along with the monitor. Plus, you get trained, the technician gets trained to use the monitor, and they are now capable of going out right after they get done with the training, which is done online. I provide all the training, I provide the coaching, I help get them up and running. We watch them from the background. I have a master dashboard. I see all the reports from around the country from every AirCycle monitor, and we can give you insights as owners as to what's going on in your organization. We also provide manager training, which allows for the service managers to be able to be on task with coaching and mentoring, as well as if you already have a monitor, if you got an old Air Advice monitor and you want to switch it over to our program, we can provide extra training for technicians, or if you want to have a couple of techs on any given monitor. And if today, this is something you really want to do, I'll tell you, as part of our program today, and because I love my friends in Indiana and Jackson Systems, if you buy 3 monitors, I'll actually throw in the manager training for free. That's my gift to you as part of our program, because I need not only the techs to really be engaged in the process, but I want to make sure that managers are really champions of making sure that as guys come off the field, that you're talking about the reports, that you're reviewing the reports, and you're building a really good book of business, because we've seen the power of what indoor air quality as a part of your business sector. We also have recently done some research that shows that 65% of homeowners are leaning in and saying, upgrading my home is of primary importance to me right now with COVID and stay at home. It's a great time to talk about indoor air quality. And so that's a basis of what our program is all about. And a couple things that are really easy. If you're interested in buying a monitor, all you have to do is go to aircyclereports.com, take a picture of this screen. That's our landing page where you can go and you can buy the monitors, get signed up for the training, get logged into your online platform. I've got some videos there that talk more about what we do and how we do it and why we created the program the way we did. But I'm more than happy to chat with you more about how to look at these reports and be able to digest them and do all those kind of things. If you want to walk a little bit more about the AirCycle program, just go to resideo.com/AirCycle, and there's more information there, as well as links to how to get back to the buying page and to get your monitors and that kind of thing. So I'll pause now and take any questions that you might have. We can talk a little bit more about the things that you're interested in as it relates to indoor air quality. Again, here's my email address if you have any questions, as well as an 800 number to connect directly to me.
We did have, I think you've answered several of the questions that came in. One that did come in, how many AirCycles does it take to send a full report to the customer?
Yeah, so it takes 30 minutes. It cycles and measures very quickly. It collects a lot of data over 30 minutes, but you need 30 minutes. And I get this question a lot. Why isn't it 10 minutes? Why isn't it 15 minutes? Well, because you're trying to get an average of how much the air is moving around in the house, so it takes 30 minutes. So that's what it's collecting. If you're in a home, let's say you're a comfort consultant and you're sizing a new air conditioner or furnace and you're in the house for a couple of hours, I love to see if you've got extra time, do one if you've got multiple zones, do them in the different zones, do one upstairs, one downstairs. Again, the more data you collect, the better you get the picture. But the answer is it takes 30 minutes to run a scan.
All right. Thank you. That's a great answer. Do we have any other questions out there? I know it's a lot to digest, but what an incredible program that Resideo has put together to really focus on the data side of presenting indoor air quality to your customers. We're pretty excited about the opportunity here at Jackson Systems to work with each of you. So yeah, definitely feel free to type in some questions there, and we will, while we have Dr. Stamp on the phone or on video, we want to get those on the phone. So 1990s technology.
Well, Tom, one of the great questions that I get all the time is, well, I'm a little nervous about doing this because what if I take an AirCycle and it says something's out of control, and then I install that fancy new filtering F300 electronic air cleaner, and I come back 2 months later and it's particles are still out of control. I look like a goofball, right? That's not a good situation. Well, guess what? Homes actually change and they go in and out of control. They move all the time. But a big part of that conversation is being able to actually share with the homeowner, so are you actually running your fan? Educating them about how to make sure you have proper maintenance. If filters are not being changed correctly or you're not getting the home, part of it is partnering with the homeowner. And I got to tell you, from a customer value point of view, having a nice connection with them on a know, like, and trust, that builds customer retention. We get people all the time that come back and say, we got amazing Yelp or Google reviews because customers think that we're spending more time listening to them and actually measuring for them.
Yep. Excellent, excellent. Just had another question pop up. Actually, it is a great question. Where do you place the monitor inside the home when you're running it?
Okay, so that's a great question. I'm a big fan when I'm in homes. I like to put it on an island in a kitchen because a couple things. One, it's where people live and move and there's a lot of action going on. And it's also indicative of what the house is like right at that moment. You want to make sure that you've got it about a foot away from any wall because it pulls in air at the front and then pushes the air out the back. So it has to be up off the floor a couple of feet and away from the wall by about 1 foot, but a coffee table, an end table, again, it's a pretty sturdy piece of equipment, but really where people are moving around a home, that's where you want to measure because that's what they're experiencing. So I'm not a big fan of putting it in a crawl space or in a duct or in a place out of the way. That really isn't a good indicator of what the family is actually experiencing. Because again, when the health question comes up, I want to talk about, well, what are the particles right here in this room? So I'm a big fan of just using it in a very common area where people are busy. That's a great question. I get that one a lot.
Absolutely. Another question. This gentleman actually happens to be an HVAC instructor, and he wanted to know how could he incorporate this into one of his classes? What components of what you presented to us today might he be able to incorporate to help the new people entering our industry learn more about IAQ?
Yeah, that's awesome. I do a train the trainer program as well. And so I'm a big fan of sharing knowledge. Again, as an educator as well, I want people to have the best information available. So yeah, reach out to me and we can connect on some things that we can get you as tools to provide for you in your training. You know, I got to tell you, it was so funny. Actually, this morning, our capacitor went out in our AC. And so the technician that came over, a guy who's only been doing this 3-4 years, young technician who's very involved in technology, that they love. They got all the gadgets and they've got a really keen sense of technology interest. And so he sees my monitor and he goes, "What's that?" And it's great because young technicians in particular love data. They understand data. They know that everybody's using data. My gosh, we're all running around with our smartphones that have tons and tons of data on them. So data is the conversation that I think the HVAC industry really needs to be aware of, because it's going to be our way of being able to lean in with a good conversation, which, by the way, I'm sure, William, you've seen this. We also have a lot of what I call Google certified HVAC technicians. That's called a homeowner, right? How many times have you got, Tom, your guys who go out in the field and they come back and go, yep, some guy was Googling how much does it cost to fix a capacitor, or maybe watched a YouTube video on how to fix a capacitor, and they think they got it all down. Homeowners are arming themselves with data all the time. So it's important that we arm our HVAC technicians with information that helps them have that conversation. So William, I'll not only help you with the how do you read the data, but what's the conversation that they have with customers. So we do a train the trainer program I think you'll like.
Dr. Stamp, to do that, they would just email you at answers@aircyclereports.com, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. And let's see here. I think we got another question. Is it okay to include filters as products to sell?
Oh, absolutely. Here's something that I found fascinating about the AirCycle program. The AirCycle program has sold a lot of duct cleaning. If you do AeroSeal technology, I love AeroSeal technology, but notice that's not stuff that Honeywell even has a dog in that fight, right? I'm all about the data is universally applied to how do you improve indoor air quality. So I've seen a lot of variable speed motor replacements. I've seen a lot of let's do some ductwork, reorchestrating how your ductwork flows. So there's a lot of opportunity to use this program, not to simply sell the boxes or the equipment on the IAQ side, but how do we improve the overall? But yes, if you don't have filters on your van and you can measure high particles, that's one of the biggest things you see. 1-inch filter boxes to 4-inch filter boxes to pour MER filters to bread, bread in the filter box.
Absolutely. William asked, and I'm not 100% sure what he's referring to. He says published glossary. I don't know what. Not sure if anybody. Maybe he could give me a little more insight on that.
That tends to be a lot of times is there a glossary of terms and ways to build conversations, like conversation starters. How do we get text to have the right ways to start conversations? And yes, we do a lot of that, as well as the glossary of the terms of what is the AirCycle, how to explain that phenomenon in the home. Yeah. That's different than the building envelope or some of the other HVAC sort of technical. We've created the AirCycle as a concept as opposed to a heavy technological discussion. And so we do, in the course of the training, give people a new vocabulary and way to have those conversations. That's pretty outstanding. I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah. So that really comes about once you sign up and you get that training.
Yep.
And you spend time with them. You'll definitely get all that insight into what goes into presenting the AirCycle and so forth. So, gentleman also asked about Ozone. I'm getting flagged down to look at the camera. Asked about Ozone. Anything the monitor does dealing with ozone?
It does not measure ozone, but that's a great point. It's actually not easy to do. But ozone in a home is not good. Any product that produces ozone is an irritant. As a matter of fact, California has outlawed a lot of HVAC equipment that produces ozone or high ionization. As a scientist, we have a whole nother conversation around ozone. I mean, we use ozone in factories. It's an amazing sterilizing agent. It's outstanding thing to use, but not in a residential environment. It's not the right place. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Great question.
All
right. Any other questions out there?
And by the way, you bring up a great point. Tom, you can't just have a report and then just hold it to a homeowner and go, so what do you think? Yep. You do need to learn the language. And I'm sure as you guys train all your team, right? You can't just go, well, we got some stuff on the shelf. You want to buy something? There's a narrative. There's always a conversation that you have to have with people about making good decisions.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So, all right. Well, that's, boy, what a packed hour of information, Dr. Stamp. That was awesome, and I hope that all of you see the potential to partner with Resideo and Jackson Systems on this unique way of making sure that you're presenting the data and giving your customers the opportunity to improve their indoor air quality. Pretty cool stuff. So,
And I was just going to add that, you don't need to let IAQ just be a little fraction of your business. If you really want to make a dedicated effort to making IAQ a significant part of your revenue, then we have to partner and work with distributors and make sure you've got access to the things you need to be able to address these issues. 95% of the time you're on a call, you will find a retail opportunity to move IAQ. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, you mentioned if they buy 3 monitors, you'll give them the manager training for free. Is that correct?
Absolutely. 3 or more monitors. I'll work with your managers specifically to get you up on the platform, understand how to do goal setting, how to review the weekly reports, and how to build a P&L on IAQ. Absolutely. We train that.
And what was the website again where you order the monitor?
That website is right here. Tyler's taught me how to do this. Boom, there you go. It's at aircyclereports.com, and you'll be able to go right there and be able to order the monitors right from there.
And along with your offer, Jackson Systems has their own special offer. I think you can see it up on the screen. We're going to give 10% off to anyone that's watching this today and signs up for the program. We're going to give you 10% off those products that relate directly to the AirCycle program through the month of July. And you'll see that on the screen there. We'll be following up with you, and our account manager will follow up with you on how you can take advantage of that really cool special offer. Now that things are starting to open up a little bit, hopefully as contractors you'll get to spend some more time in people's home and talk to them about their indoor air quality, because it is on their mind. So this is a nice way to incentivize you, getting 10% off of, everything from humidifiers, dehumidifiers, the Prestige IAQ thermostat, all those items that fall into what we're monitoring and trying to help improve the air quality. Just going to take...
Boy, Tom, if you've got 10% off on dehumidifiers, I'll take 5 of them right now.
All right, it's a deal. Yeah, there was just some positive feedback coming in about they enjoyed the training, and the potential is huge for the HVAC industry. So I appreciate those wonderful comments. And we want to say on behalf of Jackson Systems, Dr. Stamp, we really appreciate you working with us today, making the technology work with us in different parts of the country. It's often a challenge. Tyler and his team's doing an awesome job behind the scenes trying to keep me focused on the right cameras. And, so it's been awesome. Any
well, Tom, I'm glad that we're wrong camera. Okay.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yes. I guess Tyler's making me watch the computer and everything else, and I'm like,
oh my gosh,
man, I'm not that good. So.
Well, hopefully we can get out that way soon, and I would love to do a session with you live in the studio. So.
Absolutely. We're already planning on this fall having a live session. If you want to head down to our wonderful facility here on the south side of Indianapolis, we'll be streaming it as well, but if you want to come in person, assuming we've opened that far up, we would love to have you. So lots of great things happening. We'll be working with Gary and Mark, our Residio partners, following back up. So if there's nothing else, I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. It's been an absolute pleasure, everyone. Stay safe out there. Do great work. Solve some problems in homes.
All right. Thank y'all. Have a great evening.